4 decades, few names in British comedy were as recognisable as Benny Hill. His trademark grin, energetic performances, and unforgettable slapstick routines made him one of the most famous entertainers in television history. Millions of viewers around the world tuned in to watch his sketches, musical parodies, and chaotic chase sequences, making him an international star whose influence extended far beyond the United Kingdom. Yet behind the laughter and enormous success lay a more complicated story. As social attitudes evolved and television audiences changed, the style of comedy that had once made Benny Hill a household name came under increasing scrutiny. Critics questioned whether his humor still belonged in a modern era, and debates about comedy, censorship, and cultural values eventually surrounded his work. To understand how one of television's biggest stars became the center of such controversy, it is important to begin at the beginning, with the life of the man behind the famous smile. Benny Hill was born Alfred Hawthorne Hill in Southampton, Hampshire, England, on January 21, 1924. Although some records have occasionally listed a different birth year, 1924 is generally accepted as correct. He grew up in a modest household where hard work and practicality were highly valued. Entertainment was not entirely absent from his family history. His grandfather had worked as a circus clown, introducing an element of performance and showmanship into the family's background. While Benny's father operated a surgical appliance business rather than pursuing a career in entertainment, the legacy of performance still lingered in the family and may have helped inspire the young boy's fascination with making people laugh. As a child, Hill attended Taunton School in Southampton. While he received a standard education, there was little indication that he would one day become one of Britain's most famous comedians. Instead, like many young men of his generation, he entered the workforce and took a variety of ordinary jobs. Before becoming a performer, Hill worked in several professions. He spent time employed at Woolworths, delivered milk, operated bridges, drove vehicles, and even worked as a drummer. These experiences exposed him to people from all walks of life and provided a wealth of observations that would later influence his comedy. Many of the eccentric characters that appeared in his sketches were inspired by the personalities he encountered during these years. His ability to observe human behavior and exaggerate it for comedic effect would become one of his greatest strengths as a performer. The outbreak of the Second World War dramatically changed the course of Hill's life. In 1942, he was called up for military service and joined the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, a branch of the British Army responsible for maintaining and repairing military equipment. Initially trained as a mechanic, he later served as a truck driver and searchlight operator. Military service exposed Hill to experiences that were far removed from comedy. He witnessed the demands of wartime operations and learned discipline, adaptability, and problem-solving skills. These qualities would later prove invaluable in the fast-paced world of television production. In September 1944, Hill was deployed to Normandy during one of the most significant campaigns of the war. The Allied effort to liberate Western Europe required enormous coordination, and every role, from mechanics to drivers, played a crucial part in supporting the operation. Although the war presented serious challenges, it also unexpectedly opened the door to Hill's future career. Before the conflict ended, he transferred to the Combined Services Entertainment Division. This organization provided performances for military personnel and helped maintain morale among troops stationed far from home. For Hill, it was a transformative experience. Performing before soldiers taught him how to engage audiences under difficult circumstances. He learned the importance of timing, delivery, and audience interaction. More importantly, he discovered that making people laugh was not just something he enjoyed, it was something he excelled at. The experience convinced him that entertainment was the path he wanted to pursue after the war. Like many aspiring comedians of his era, Hill drew inspiration from the great performers who came before him. British music hall entertainment had long been one of the country's most popular forms of live performance. These shows combined comedy, singing, dancing, and variety acts, creating a lively atmosphere that captivated audiences. Hill admired the larger-than-life personalities of music hall comedians and studied their techniques closely. Their influence would remain visible throughout his career, particularly in his use of visual humor, exaggerated characters, and broad physical comedy. He also admired American comedian Jack Benny, one of radio's most successful stars. So strong was his admiration that Alfred Hill eventually adopted the stage name Benny as a tribute to his comedic hero. Armed with ambition, experience, and a growing understanding of performance, he began pursuing opportunities in entertainment. Hill's first major breakthrough arrived through radio. On October 5, 1947, he appeared on the popular program Variety Bandbox. At a time when radio dominated British entertainment, This exposure provided an important platform for a young comedian trying to establish himself. Listeners quickly responded to Hill's quick wit and distinctive style. His performances demonstrated a natural sense of comic timing and an ability to adapt to different formats. Success on radio encouraged producers to offer him additional opportunities, allowing him to develop his skills further. The experience also taught him how to create humor using voice alone, a valuable lesson that strengthened his abilities as both a writer and performer. Although radio helped launch his career, an even greater opportunity soon emerged. The 1950s marked the rapid growth of television, and Hill recognized its enormous potential. Unlike radio, television allowed performers to combine dialogue with visual comedy. For someone as expressive and energetic as Benny Hill, the medium was perfectly suited to his talents. He made his television debut in 1950 and immediately embraced the possibilities offered by the new format. Television gave him the freedom to experiment with sight gags, physical humor, costumes, and character transformations. Audiences could now see the exaggerated facial expressions and body language that enhanced his comedy. These early appearances helped establish him as one of Britain's rising comedic talents. Everything changed on January 15, 1955. That day marked the debut of The Benny Hill Show on the BBC. The program combined elements of traditional music hall entertainment with modern television production. Sketches, musical numbers, parody segments, and recurring characters created a fast-paced variety show unlike anything else on television. Viewers immediately embraced Hill's unique approach. His comedy relied on universal themes that transcended language barriers. Physical humor, visual gags, and exaggerated situations allowed audiences from different backgrounds to enjoy the show regardless of nationality. Throughout the BBC years, Hill worked alongside a talented group of performers who helped bring his ideas to life. Among them were Patricia Hayes, Jeremy Hawke, Peter Vernon, Ronnie Brody, and writer Dave Freeman. Together they developed many of the sketches and characters that became audience favorites. One standout performer was Jackie Wright, whose diminutive stature and bald head made him the perfect target for Hill's famous head-slapping routines. Wright's deadpan reactions became an essential component of many sketches and earned him a devoted following among viewers. As his television career flourished, Hill continued exploring new creative opportunities. In 1962, he starred in an anthology sitcom simply titled Benny Hill. Unlike traditional sitcoms, the program allowed him to portray a different character in each episode. The format showcased his remarkable versatility. One week he might play a bumbling worker, while the next he could appear as an eccentric aristocrat or an incompetent authority figure. His willingness to transform himself for comedy became one of his defining characteristics. 2 years later, he surprised audiences by taking part in a television adaptation of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Hill portrayed Nick Bottom, one of Shakespeare's most comic characters. While many viewers associated him exclusively with light entertainment, the performance demonstrated that he possessed genuine acting ability. The role allowed him to blend classical theatre with his natural comedic instincts, earning respect from audiences who may not have considered him a traditional actor. Despite his growing television success, Hill never abandoned radio entirely. Between 1964 and 1966, he starred in Benny Hill Time on the BBC Light programme. The series featured topical humour, celebrity parodies, and recurring characters. Hill frequently spoofed contemporary trends and famous personalities, including James Bond and the Beatles. His sharp observations and willingness to poke fun at popular culture kept the material fresh and relevant. The program also introduced beloved recurring characters such as Fred Scuttle, whose bizarre speech patterns and awkward behavior became audience favorites. These characters further demonstrated Hill's talent for creating memorable comic personalities. By the late 1960s, Benny Hill had become one of Britain's most recognizable entertainers. Yet an even greater chapter of his career was about to begin. In 1969, The Benny Hill Show moved from the BBC to Thames Television. The transition proved transformative. Rather than producing regular weekly episodes, the program shifted toward one-hour specials. This format gave Hill more time to develop elaborate sketches, musical productions, and ambitious visual sequences. Production values increased significantly, and the show's popularity exploded. Soon, The Benny Hill Show was being broadcast in countries around the world. Viewers who spoke different languages could still appreciate the universal appeal of visual comedy. As international syndication expanded, Benny Hill evolved from a British television personality into a global entertainment phenomenon. Millions of viewers across Europe, North America, Australia, and beyond embraced his unique brand of humor. His ability to communicate through physical comedy made him one of the rare performers capable of achieving worldwide success without relying heavily on dialogue. The best years of his career still lay ahead, and his most famous sketches were yet to come. However, as the show's popularity continued to grow, so too would the criticism that eventually changed everything.